What's up, creeps? Exorcist here, and you are tuned in to another edition of Scurred. So we are talking Scurred TV, and we are talking The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode number 2. Uh, Whoa. I mean, once you survive Episode 1, and everything that we talked about in the previous video, episode 2 just jumps right back into the same old feelings where you're like, I cannot believe this is happening. And I cannot believe, I don't know, several things throughout the entire episode. Really just a solid show. On episode 2, we pick up with Joel and Ellie, and we see that the group is still basically working on the same mission. And so Tess, of course, with the trio, is really starting to play almost a motherly role to Ellie. And the stark opposite is happening for Joel, who's trying to distance himself, of course, due to some of the stuff that we saw in episode 1 and losing his daughter and the trauma that's left behind over so many years. So as much as he wants to, you can actually start to feel that Joel is getting closer to Ellie, whether he wants to or not. And he does this kind of natural dad thing with her, which I get. But Tess is really giving the effort. She's really saying, you gotta be patient with her. You got to take it slow, and whatever you do, you have to protect her, which makes good sense. So here we are, episode 2 called Infected, and we are just getting out of the chaos that ensued in episode 1 and walking into what is quite seriously more craziness. Tess is really, as I mentioned, pushing on Joel to understand that what she has, what Ellie has, this immunity or whatever she has going on, is very real. I think it's important to note that Tess tells Ellie, you're immune to whatever's happening, but you are not immune to being ripped to shreds. So be smart. Joel's kind of like, nah, I've heard it before. I saw it back in, who knows, 2017, and people were talking about that. And it just doesn't work that way. So we see the three of them get into this zombie scary, man, I don't know, they're ugly. The fungus makes things ugly. But one of them is just really on their case upstairs at the museum. And what you see is several minutes of going the whole time, because we learned that they're more attracted. I don't want to say we learned, but we're reminded that they're more attracted to sound. They can't physically see you, so if you're quiet, you're good. And then, something happens. You knock over a lamp or something, and then this thing's jumping at you. It's all over you. One interesting thing that happened during that whole spat, okay, is they all kind of fought with the zombies. But there was a point where Joel and Ellie were together, and the zombie jumped and was biting, yada, 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 yada. And it didn't happen this way, but what they could have done is they could have made it more impactful by Ellie, like sticking out the arm and getting the bite rather than just getting a bite. It's still important because Joel now wants to look at the arm all the time. Show me the arm. Show me the arm. And Ellie's like, oh, fine, look, yeah, see, still nothing. I'm good. And that happens throughout the episode, as well as the upcoming episode 3. But it's important because it's him keeping tabs on her. So we get out of the museum, we find a way around it. We're gonna start moving forward. We're at the rendezvous point. We get to the truck and we realize something's wrong. In fact, Ellie says something's wrong. And she's right. They walk into the building and all of the people they were supposed to meet are dead. And I was shocked by the amount of stuff that was in that building. And I was also shocked, but not shocked at the same time, by how many people in these situations in the movies don't just bend over and pick up a gun. I mean, there's, I can picture it. There's a big crate and there's all kinds of supplies and there's a shotgun laying right next to one of the people. And nobody picks it up. I mean, you want to keep shooting things with your 6-shooter there, Joel, knock yourself out. But if I have a tactical shotgun, I feel a lot better about life. Just pick up the guns, for goodness sake. But they neglect to do that. While they're in the museum, or they're actually out of the museum, sorry, and they're into the new building, the rendezvous point where everybody's dead, they all of a sudden know that, the rest of the herd, quote unquote, is coming based on one they just killed. One again, it's not necessarily a critique, but it's the little details. Okay, it's the little details that people like you and I watch out for. They're in the museum and the whole roof caves in behind them. Is this not a really good time for zombies that hear everything to come running? It's like they didn't hear that, but they heard the noise coming from, everything that was happening in the other building. So I'm like, again, little details. Big noise, pick up the gun. Okay, pretty simple. But anyway, they realize, hey, they're not going to fight everything. Everybody that's in that room is starting to look a little bit zombie-ish, and they got to get the hell out of there. But Tess all of a sudden has no time. And why is that? Well, Tess was bitten. And then I go right back to the rest of us is killing me with how easy it is for them to just kill people off. I thought Tess was going to be in this for at least 10 more episodes. She's the mothering, nurturing type that Ellie so desperately needs on this trip. And now she's bit and dead? Well, not dead, but going to be. So let's get into that. She decides to take one for the team. The whole place is, doused up and there's flammable stuff everywhere. And Tess is being attacked as she's flicking her lighter. She's going like this and it's not lighting. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. And then all of a sudden it goes up in perfect timing. So, boom. Big explosion, and Ellie and Joel are standing outside of the building looking on in disbelief that what just happened. But it did indeed just happen. And then we got, Joel, show me your arm. I think one of the bits of humor, which is really important in a dark show like this, is Ellie always asking for a gun. I could. No. Joel says no. Which I think is funny. So it's nice to have some comic relief in there. The story behind this so far is just amazing. And the setting. I mean, if I had to grade this thing on a setting scale of like 1 to 10, 10 being this is some of the most work and CGI and everything else, but again, really, really well done environment. This show takes the cake. It gets a 10, a solid 10 in setting. And the cast is phenomenal. We went over the cast last time, so I won't bore you with that, but they really are something amazing. And that has a little bit to say with the writers too. Craig Mazin, Neil Druckerman, both really awesome. Mazin worked on the TV or the show Chernobyl. And so, there's almost some common parallels between the two, especially with Tess sacrificing herself the way that she did to make sure Ellie can keep going and Joel can get her there. So they did, basically watch the whole building go up in flames. They knew the Tess was gone. It was pretty sad, but right when that happened, you could feel that Ellie and Joel sharing a tragedy just got this much closer, which I think needed to happen. So as much as I'm like, I can't believe you killed Tess, it only makes sense. that they would get rid of Tess in the respect that the relationship that needs to happen in this show is Joel and Ellie getting together and getting that feel, almost that father-daughter feel, and getting into it. Which I think is really important. It's going to grow. You're going to see it over the next few shows. But if we spend some time talking about Ellie, I think it's important to do that because she is so critical, so pivotal in what's going to happen with the state of the world and the entire show. I don't think we can underspend time on her character and how she's developing. And I think that she's seen a lot. I mean, they talk about some of the things that she's been through and what she expected on the outside world versus what she's getting. The lies that they've told her and the things that other people have told her. There's a lot of trauma in this character. And so seeing her in this setting with Joel, who also has a lot of trauma, the two of them, almost by default, by the nature of their characters, will draw nearer to each other. But we also are dealing with what is a teenager. and I have teenagers, and they can be exhausting. I love you girls. But wow, there's a lot there. So, I feel for Joel in one respect. I feel for Joel in many respects. But this was an important episode, and if only, this sounds bad, if only to kill off Tess, this episode definitely needed to happen. So that said, I think overall the episode was phenomenal. Anytime you watch episode 1 of a show, if you don't develop some feelers for the characters in that show, it's really hard to watch the second episode. The Last of Us did not have that problem. At least for me, I started to connect with the characters almost instantly. Again, due to some of my own stuff, but it was very well written. By the end of episode 2, if you are not connected to Joel and Ellie, I would be shocked. Because they're human. They're just like you. They're just like me. They're just like all of us. They're in it together. I know you guys are tired of hearing that, but it's the truth. And so that's what's going to happen. I think going forward in episode 3, we'll see that relationship get a little bit closer. Same thing in episode 4, same thing in episode 5, so on and so forth. And each checkpoint that they meet as they head west will be critically important. So the relationship of these characters, again, cannot be understated. Tell me what you think. Drop a comment. Throw me a like. Throw me a subscribe. We appreciate it. All the support that we get here on Scurred is much appreciated. So do that. Hit the subscribe button and bells and like buttons and all of those things. Please, por favor. But more importantly, drop down some comments. Tell us what you're thinking of The Last of Us. And you can get specific or you can keep broad and narrow. Say you love it, say you don't love it. And there are people that don't love it, for the record. I live with one. Married her a decade ago, and our taste in television and movies is completely opposite. But she did watch episode 1 to give it a try, and I said, if you're not entirely convinced by episode 1, you don't have to watch it, and she's now not going to watch it. A little dark for her. But overall, pretty awesome. Drop those comments down below, and I will respond. The Scurred team will be all over it. We love talking to people watching the channel, and I appreciate you tuning in to another episode of Scurred. So, as we always say, I'm Exorcist, and until next time, sleep tight.